Motherfucker.
Too low in relations between the countries. Israeli sources fear that the ICJ may issue new orders against Israel as the operation in Rafah is having a major impact on access to humanitarian aid. You know, when Egypt breaks ties with their country, you know, your pyramid scheme has... I can't fucking talk today.
Hey, you're sober.
And I'm completely sober. When Egypt breaks ties with your country, you know your pyramid scheme has completely collapsed. How about, come on, there you go.
Yeah, you got it.
Holy shit. So here's a little bit more. Egypt on Sunday said it would intervene in support of South Africa's case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, citing the growing scale of Israel's operation in Gaza and the impact on civilians. The move highlights growing tensions between the two neighbors as the Israeli operation in border town Rafah tests long-term agreements and security cooperation. Again, how monstrous do you have to be to make human rights beacons like South Africa and Egypt side against you? That's like Godzilla telling Mothra to ease back on the damage to public property. Hey, South Africa asked the court on Friday to order Israel to withdraw from Rafah as part of additional emergency measures in an ongoing case that accused Israel of acts of genocide. Egyptian security sources told Reuters that Egyptian officials had relayed to Israel that they blamed its actions for the strained bilateral relations and the breakdown of ceasefire talks. Delegations from Hamas, Israel, and Egypt and Qatar have been held in Cairo. Asked about their 1979 treaty between the two countries in light of the Rafah operation, Egyptian Foreign Minister, whatever his name is, on Sunday said that the treaty between the two countries was necessary to ensure security and that it had mechanisms to handle any violations without going into detail. Well, Israel is violating that treaty. And here's a quick 2-minute video that explains just how serious, because it doesn't sound that serious. It is super serious. Well, according to these people, let's listen.
This is really an unprecedented moment in the history of Egypt and Israel.
So Egypt has an important peace treaty with Israel and has been a key player in talks aimed at ceasefire in Israel's war on Gaza.
Egypt has been the most important mediator in the region, the first Arab nation to recognize and formalize ties with Israel in 1979. And here is this moment, the symbolic moment, where the Egyptian government puts its foot down.
Egypt is the only country apart from Israel that shares a border with Gaza. What little aid Israel has allowed in has crossed through the border with Egypt and Gaza. But Israel forces recently seized the Palestinian side of the main crossing.
Israel did this one other thing to Egypt in violating security by seizing operational control of this border and creating instability right on the border territory. And so this violation is also to the international, if you will, status quo of stability. And so besides violating the rights of the Palestinians, it's also now violated several international agreements that have been long held between Egypt and Israel.
Since the historic deal in 1979, Israel-Egypt ties have survived several crises, but experts say Israel's war on Gaza has strained relations.
It's an unbelievable diplomatic blow to Israel. Egypt is the cornerstone of our standing in the Middle East. Egypt started it, and everything we have on top of it, including Jordan and then the Emirates and Morocco, and we have more connections in the Middle East, is coming as a result of what Egypt did 40 years ago.
Turkey and Colombia have also formally requested to join the genocide case. There has been growing international pressure on Israel after it began incursions into Rafah, just across the border from Egypt, where more than 1.5 million displaced people have been trying to find safety. So let me bring in Anya. So that's a big deal that Egypt is finally breaking with Israel. After Israel, by the way, is breaking their treaties with Egypt and international agreements. So Israel just is the reckless terrorist in this situation. And what do you make of it?
It is significant because Egypt, as that last analyst explained, is the cornerstone of support or the continuation of Israel's existence in the Middle East. And that's because while people like you and me grew up in a time or have been most aware of a time when countries such as Iraq and Syria and Libya and other surrounding countries were targeted for U.S. regime change and war, which ultimately we can see now set the stage for this war that Israel always wished to carry out to establish and expand its territory into Gaza, because now all the countries that would be resisting Israel are either destroyed, such as in Libya's case and Iraq's case, or barely functional, as Syria is already locked down from years of war, so they're incapable of resisting. But of course, Egypt would ultimately have been the power, the great Arab power that acted as the cornerstone of Arab resistance in the Middle East, if not for several coups and assassinations and destabilization efforts and war that was waged on Egypt long before war was ever declared on Iraq. Egypt has been under the thumb and the boot of U.S. transatlantic and ultimately Israeli Zionist imperial powers in the region. And that's why last year, when I was at the BRICS conference in South Africa, when they announced the great expansion of BRICS to go beyond just Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, they announced several new countries were joining. And Egypt was one that at first actually surprised me. I wasn't surprised by Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Iran because I understand that BRICS, and I believe Venezuela will be admitted this year. That's my prediction, because a key goal of BRICS is to incorporate natural resource control across the world. If you have all of those countries, you have control over the oil market, period, because you have the largest oil producers not only participating in an alternative financial system, but the consumers. That's where we really lost this game. We thought we could play tricks with the world forever because we were consuming so much oil. Well, now India needs oil too. And so we can sanction everybody we want, but the Indians are still going to buy Russian, Chinese, whoever we want to sanction. India will be a market. China might provide a market for other. But Egypt, at first I thought, why is Egypt admitted into BRICS? And then it made sense. First, I said, the Suez Canal is a major piece of the global economy. You need to have control over the Suez Canal, which Egypt oversees, if you're going to control the flow of resources and oil around the world. So that was one piece of it. But then politically, really, if there's going to be a true confrontation with the West, which is, I think, is what was playing out throughout these various conflicts, whether it's in Ukraine with Russia or in Gaza with Israel, I think these are fronts in the same international war. The allies on all sides are the same. The results in terms of the sanctions that the United States is lobbying against Iran or lobbying against Russia are the same, which is that instead of these countries collapsing, they're building a stronger bloc. And so Egypt was crucial to bring into that bloc, because as Egypt has served as this cornerstone of Zionist interests in the region for decades, because they won't stand up to the Israelis, Egypt is now in a tricky position, because not only is the Egyptian population up in arms and upset with everything that they're seeing happen in Gaza, and that does eventually pose a political threat to any Egyptian government, even the military, which controls everything in the country. But more importantly, from the perspective of the Egyptian elite, the invasion of Rafah and the ultimate cleansing of Gaza can only continue and can only go forward if Israel is going to ultimately completely infringe upon Egyptian sovereignty and push Palestinians further into the Sinai Desert, which is actually the plan we've unveiled at the Gray Zone. We published in November of last year, I believe, internal document showing that Israel actually already had a plan to build refugee cities similarly to what they built in Gaza decades ago in the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt to deal with the Gaza refugee flow. Well, how do you think Egypt feels about that? Egypt is very well aware that this incursion into Gaza can only proceed if ultimately they are forced to open their border and let in the Palestinian refugees. And that is something that Egypt, even if they want to for political reasons or financial reasons, and it cannot actually happen. Zionism and the plan for the region has just hit the wall of reality in the Middle East. And the fact that Egypt now, it's been along with Israel, the largest recipient of U.S. military aid for decades. I think it is the second largest recipient of foreign aid after Israel. Like, that's because it's essentially aid that we're giving to Israel to keep Egypt in our camp. Even that money will be meaningless to Egypt if we're forcing them now to give up their territory. And there is this alternative international network that's not controlled by the transatlantic powers, that's based more in Beijing and Moscow, that will actually give Egypt the space to finally become a sovereign country once again. And I hope, for the sake of the Egyptian people, that happens, because it is a shame. We grow up thinking that Egypt is one of the greatest civilizations to have ever graced humanity, and yet the country today is an insult to that history. It's a complete tool of the US. So I hope that the Egyptians, through this process, are demonstrating that, hey, the world is different now. We don't have to just go along with your program anymore.
Well, when I see this, Erdogan and Turkey turn against Israel, when I see Egypt turn against Israel, what that tells me is that the blackmail sex videos that Israel has on world leaders must be neutralized now, right? I think they can just go, oh no, that's not me, that's AI. I think that's my idea.
That's a good theory.
That's just AI from Epstein's Island. That's all. Well, Anya, I really appreciate you taking time to talk with us today. It's always a pleasure to have you on. And good luck with your book. Everybody check out her book. It's called The Corporate Coup, Venezuela and the End of U.S. Empire. And you can check her out this Wednesday, May 15th, at the OR Books in New York City with Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate. All right. It's great to talk to you.
Great to see you, Jimmy. Hopefully I'll get to bring the book to LA and do something with you and Steph.
Yeah, I hope. Do you have any plans to come to Los Angeles?
I would love to. I don't have any plans, but I'm anxious to make that happen. So
okay, well, you always have a place to stay.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to you soon, Jimmy.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, Steph.
Bye.
Okay, over to Steph.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do right now is I just have to refresh YouTube, so I make sure that I keep all of the super chats in order. And I did. And we can go ahead and switch over to Rumble. Meet us there at Rumble.
Hey, want to save money on your mortgage? That's what this is about. American Financing is a family-owned mortgage lender licensed in all 50 states and has helped thousands of people with home loans. They have been in business for 20 years, so they obviously know what they're doing, and their Google reviews show that they're working for you. Unlike the big banks who are you're just an account number to them. American Financing employs salary-based mortgage consultants. That means they don't get a commission, so they're not going to high pressure you. That's what that means. There's no incentive to put you into a loan that doesn't make sense. Their mission is to save you money, and they do. They don't ask for any upfront fees, and there's no obligation to get started. So if you're a homeowner and you need help with your monthly bills, American Financing Cash Out Refinance can help. They are saving homeowners just like you an average of, get this, $854 a month. You may even come out of this debt-free. Yes, debt-free. Call their salary-based mortgage consultants today and get started on your road to financial freedom, and tell them Jimmy Dore sent you. Call 888-804-0303 or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Jimmy.
I stopped to see a weeping willow cry. After midnight searching for me, I stopped to see a weeping willow crying on his pillow. Maybe he's crying for me. As the skies turn gloomy, the night will whisper to me, I'm lonesome as I can be. Come out walking after midnight in the moonlight, just hoping you make it. And I'm walking after midnight searching for me. I stopped.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy and the rest of MSNBC. And click on any of the videos right here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. And you can get more videos from MSNBC for free every day with our newsletter. Just visit
Isn't it swell? The memes make themselves. They found a rabbi hole, tunnels and all. There's Jews in the walls. Isn't it bliss? The rabbinical grace soiling the mattresses. Well, let me tell you. Shut it down. If I were Rabbi Shmuley and diddle 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 digga digga diddle diddle dum, all day long I'd diddle little bums. If I were a Shmuley man, I'd peddle all my dildos, dreidel dildos, selling dildos with my daughter and her mum. If I were a Jewish Shmuley man, I'd be digging with a dildo in my bum. I'd wear a grotesque nose and go grab some goyim right on the nipple with a pinch. A Shabbos lap dance brace for the youngest mensch.
At this time, more than any other time, you know, revolution is necessary. It is necessary. Not only based on what has happened with the MOVE organization, you know, the babies that have been murdered, you know, MOVE adults that have been murdered, bombs being dropped on us, but past that to what is happening with all black people, so-called minority people, you know, money poor people. You know, this government, as has been said earlier, has waged war on us. But you know, something about us, particularly here in America, we don't really understand that. You know, we don't really know what war is. You know, for black people, for poor people, that people see as good, that they wasn't forced to do, that they didn't do to try to keep black people appeased, you know, and calm down so that black people wouldn't riot. A prison situation is a crystallized example of that. You can make phone calls in prison. They have movies in prison. But they don't have those things because they just want to be nice to prisoners. They have those things because they know damn well if they don't have, you know, people being able to contact their family, if they don't have, you know, facilities for people to sit there and watch movies, people are going to be frustrated, upset, and they're going to direct that frustration at them prison administrators. And they're going to have riots on their hands. You know, they're going to have people in them prisons turning them prisons out. That's why they have movies. That's why they have access to phones the way they do. And a stop to it when we don't like it, or encouraging it when it's something that's in our interest. You know, we have to call the shots. The people have to take the reins of this system and start dictating, you know, what we need, what needs to be done. And, you know, taking the initiative to do it ourselves. We can't rely on this system. I mean, you know, don't people see what's happening? Every single confrontation that MOVE people have been involved in, every single issue, you know, oppression, economic issues, every single issue facing our people, you know, is something that can be dealt with very, very simply. All people got to do is make their wishes known. All people have to do is stand up and say, listen, we're not accepting that. Unity is the key. Unity is the key to revolution. Revolution ain't nothing to be afraid of. It ain't nothing to shy away from. Revolution, contrary to what officials, you know, this system and those backing the officials running the system, you know, want people to believe that revolution means violence, you know, means blood in the street. I'm saying it can get to that point, but it don't have to be violent. You know, when people come together and take a strong stand on an issue, this government don't have no choice but to listen. Where you think they get their authority from? They don't have no power, but they do have authority to do certain things. Where you think they get it from? They get it from us, from the people. You know, they get it from us accepting the things that they do to be done to stop it. Then you have some people who want to then turn around and say, yeah, well, you know, it's the best we have, and want to make excuses. The time for excuses is over. It's over. You know, every man, woman, and child has to be involved in this revolution. Not only has to be, but is, whether you want to be or not. I mean, our babies gave their lives for this revolution on May 13th. You know, men, women, and children were murdered. And not just MOVE babies, you know. What about all of the young men, women, you know, children 8, 9 years old shot down on the street by cops, you know, by drug pushers? I mean, you know, where do you think that mentality comes from? It comes from this system, from the mentality of this system of getting over, you know, making a quick buck, you know. I'm saying that's where that needs to be done to stop it. Then, you know, what I want people to really, really understand is that it's past time. It is past time for poor people, black people, you know, to realize that this system has failed you. It has failed you. You can't get nothing from it. And what people got to do is withdraw our support from it and start doing for ourselves. That's what we got to do. You know, how long are people going to sit back and beg, you know, this government to do what's right when for hundreds of years all you've gotten is a slap in the face? All you've gotten is this government kicking your ass. That's all. That's all black people have ever gotten from this government.